Yo, officer, yo, you wildin', yo. You wildin', officer, you wildin', yo. You on some real disrespectful shit, B. You mad You're from 2X precinct? He's a dick sucker. Dick sucker nigga. You feel better? Crazy. There's kids out here and all that. It's gonna light it 10 minutes later. There's kids out here and everything, boss. You feel better? That's crazy, boss. There's kids out here, boss. Crazy, yo. Like, for real. Look, it's kids out here. Kids out here, boss. Like, it's kids out here. How you do shit like that? Show me the video. I'd like to see it. Nah, it's kids. Watch out, man. It's kids out here. Look, it's little kids. Like, we high right now, man. Little kids.
Umbrella. She's up. Whole nother level of shit you can't even understand.
What is good, my people? We are live back again with another episode of The Forecast. So I know all of these recent protests and rallies have made a lot of people aware of how bad racism really is in this country. You even have white people on TV calling out open white supremacy. And it damn sure better start waking up black people if the last at least 350 years haven't done so already. And now we've reached another boiling point in America. And now you have all of these racist people who are tired of having to be silent about their racism. They want to just put it out for display for everybody to see. And if you think there aren't any police officers who was probably at this neo-Nazi rally or at the very least share the same ideology as these people, you are sadly mistaken. And while we sit here begging and asking and pleading for them to stop doing injustice to us as a form of our protection, we use protests as a form of defense. These neo-Nazi members and KKK members, they're going out and joining the police force. They are going out and running for office to be in control of the local policies, and they are winning. You even have the President of the United States, Donald Trump, telling the police officers, when you're dealing with these thugs, please don't be too nice. Please don't be too nice when you're dealing with these thugs. If you bang against the car, oh well. Now let's see which violent thugs and violent criminals Donald Trump is talking about.
Walking down the street. This is what he do. An old man they put on the car.
A chorus of confused voices, puzzled by what they're witnessing in their South Memphis neighborhood. 91-year-old Otha Thurmond led to a waiting police car in handcuffs after police say he waved a stick at them and tried to intervene in a separate assault investigation.
And they asked him, what is he doing with a stick? He said, I'm old, I need this stick. He showed it to them. They grabbed him. They slammed him on the car. Put his arm all the way up here to the back of his back.
There's no cell phone footage that shows any of that, and police say they won't be able to release body camera video until after they complete their investigation. But 3 witnesses confirmed these accounts.
He never raised his stick up in a threatening manner. He roughed him up and threw him on the car as if he was some young thug.
They had the old man like this, up against the car, right over here.
None of this appears in the misdemeanor citation Thurmond was handed for disorderly conduct. That officers ordered him to sign shortly after we arrived.
I've never been in jail in my life. In jail. I never paid a traffic ticket in my life.
We checked, and Thurmond has no criminal record in Shelby County, making his arrest and his alleged treatment all the harder for his neighbors to wrap their heads around.
I'm just enraged. I'm enraged.
So here you have this 91-year-old man being harassed and assaulted by the police. And they felt threatened because this 91-year-old man had a stick in his hand. And it wasn't even a stick, it was a damn cane. This man had never been in trouble before, never as much as a traffic ticket. And then they give him the citation for getting assaulted by the police, I guess. Because notice, they didn't give him anything for something he did before the police started harassing him. All this came because they were harassing him. But the reason why they feel justified in assaulting an elder in our community, or feel comfortable enough to come into a group of black people and pour water on their grill, is because they know they can do it. And right now we living in a time where we can't afford to be divided, because they are amping it up. They are getting more confident. They are getting more bold. And they know that they can walk into a crowd of black people and shoot one and walk out without a scratch. They do all this stuff on purpose, like, I wish a nigga would do something to me. But if they were to walk into a crowd of armed people, they be thinking twice about whether they should follow the law or not. That's a whole different ballgame. But when groups like the Black Panther Party, when they try to inform you about your right to bear arms, they're put on the level of the KKK. But if it's one thing we need to incorporate from these people, or incorporate from the American experience, just like all of those statues of the people that they worship so much, they said, give me liberty or give me death. They would rather be dead than oppressed. You see, these people are in a position of power, but if they even think that it could come close to ending, they form militia and have armed citizens out in the streets. But yet, when the police beat up an old man or shoots a kid, we too busy being divided over ideologies. Even as black people in America, we still suffer from tribalism. We have a hard time putting our beliefs to the side to form our own militia together, to police the police and to police ourselves. But if we're not going to form a militia, the least we can do is have people joining the police that can go into our communities and actually protect us. We need to be running for offices in your local areas, like district representative or mayor or whatever. The people who are in charge of the direct policies in your communities. Or you can hire your own police chief that can decide whether to carry out a policy or not. By teaching our children to become judges and lawyers and come into the defense of the judges and lawyers that we have today. Like Judge Olu Stevens and Aramis Ayala. We need to be having their backs. We need to be focusing on our economies. And we don't even have to stop being consumers. Just give your money to other black people. Buy from other black people. Keep the money in the community as long as we have to. We can't say we don't have the money. We just have to focus it in the right directions. I mean, right now, we can elect a board of successful businessmen and make this committee strictly for funding and growing black businesses. And we can all just contribute to it. Now, make sure they're transparent in everything that they're doing. Make sure they keep their word, and whatever they say they're going to do, they're going to do. And if any of that changes, stop sending your money right away. Our ancestors left us the blueprint of how to create successful economies. They left us the blueprints of how to create healthy black families. What we have to do is learn how to protect those things. Whatever we have to learn how to protect it. And if we don't, they will continue to come and destroy whatever we build. So I want to hear what you got to say.
For Complex News, I'm Hanuman Welch. In the late hours of Friday night, Trump took the latest step in the full-throated executive branch endorsement of white supremacy by pardoning the monstrous former sheriff of Maricopa County, Arizona, Joe Arpaio. The former sheriff was convicted of misdemeanor contempt of court back in July of 2017 for routinely violating the rights of Latinos and racially profiling people as illegal immigrants. And in a surprise to no one, he has been a Trump supporter from day one, going as far back as jumping on the Obama birther wagon in the mid-aughts. For more than 20 years, Arpaio ruled as a tin pot fascist in Arizona and brutally oppressed communities of color, but even that description barely covers how truly evil this man was. As the news was breaking late Friday night, the Phoenix New-Times, who have been covering Arpaio for more than 2 decades, took to Twitter to revisit some of the former sheriff's greatest hits. Under him, the Maricopa Sheriff's Office failed to investigate hundreds of sex abuse cases, many of which involved children. He fed inmates meals that cost as little as 15 cents each, and was proud of the fact that the food was rotten and contaminated. Arpaio tortured inmates who were on psychotropic medication by locking them in unbearably hot solitary confinement cells, and those with physical vulnerabilities were mistreated too. A paraplegic had his neck broken by guards, and a pregnant woman lost her baby after officers left her in her cell instead of taking her to the hospital. And again, those incidents barely scratched the surface of how evil Arpaio's reign was for the 2 decades he ran Maricopa County like the racist, fascist police state that it was. And Trump pardoned him. Some have argued that the pardon of Arpaio, a sheriff convicted of intentionally disobeying the orders of a federal judge by continuing to operate unlawful patrols that targeted people of color as potential illegal immigrants, is an attack on the federal judiciary, and therefore an impeachable offense. And don't let anyone tell you this man was controversial or polarizing. He was a truly monstrous white supremacist, and Trump pardoned him the way that all presidential pardons go down, late on a Friday night, just as a Category 4 hurricane was about to make landfall, and the president was on his way to Camp David for another weekend vacation. Oh, did the president have anything to say to the people of Texas before Harvey plowed into the state?
Well, there are questions tonight surrounding the background of a newly appointed Texoma police chief after we found his name linked to websites that sell media and memorabilia aimed at skinheads and white nationalists.
News 12's Rachel Knapp looked into it and brings us this investigative report.
Last week, the Southern Poverty Law Center released a hate map following the events in Charlottesville, Virginia. That map identified only one group operating in Texoma: ISD Records, a website that sells racist media and memorabilia aimed at skinheads and white nationalists, with the website featuring a banner that reads, "The Voice of Blood and Honor," an international coalition of racist skinhead gangs, and artists like the Klansmen, and album titles including "Hitler Was Right." We tracked down the certificate of ownership of ISD Records filed at the Grayson County Courthouse in 2004. With the signature of a Bart Alsbrook with a Denison address. Colbert Reserve Police Officer Bart Alsbrook was named interim chief this week. We called Alsbrook about that application last week. He denied he was the Bart Alsbrook behind ISDrecords.com. We searched for another Bart Alsbrook and couldn't find another person with that name in the United States. When we called him back to ask him about it, Alsbrook claimed a group of skinheads stole his wallet and began using his name after a fight at a heavy metal concert in the 1990s. Court records show Alsbrook was charged with attempted murder back in the 90s. He says the victim misidentified him, and the charge was eventually dropped. And in 2005, the SPLC identified Alsbrook as Blood and Honor USA's Texas coordinator and the man behind NS88 Videos, a website similar to ISD Records. County records also list Alsbrook's name and Denison address as that site's owner. He also denied he was the person behind that site. NS88.com was also taken down shortly after we asked Alsbrook about it. Colbert city officials declined to speak to us both about Alsbrook's hiring and the story. Alsbrook says he is the interim chief until the city can hire a new full-time chief. Reporting in Colbert, Rachel Knapp, News 12.
Documents obtained by News Channel 3 revealed threatening posts on social media directed at Judge Carlos Moore. Police say it's possible the posts stem from Moore's decision to remove the controversial Mississippi state flag from his courtroom in July. One post stated, "You're not untouchable. You can't hide behind the court system or closed doors. If I were you, I would start checking my surroundings." Another person replied, "You're a piece of expletive. I guess you need a bullet in the head." That was followed by this post, "Terminate him." Warrants have been issued for Paul Millwood and Jeff Porch for cyber-stalking, email threats, and harassment.
We're working with the social media site to try to determine where their location may be.
Right now, there doesn't appear to be anything linking the men to a hate group.
And we take any threat against any of our sitting judges, whether if they're in our jurisdiction, whether they're a county judge, a city judge, a circuit judge. We take those very serious, and we're going to do everything that we can to prosecute anyone that makes any physical threats against those individuals.
Additional officers have been assigned to the municipal court building where Judge Moore sits. He was not in his chambers Thursday. Police will also be checking to see if Millwood or Porch knew Moore or ever appeared before him in court. Meanwhile, some residents in Coahoma County believe no one should be threatened over whether the state flag flies or not.
We all got to learn to live in the world and get along with one another, no matter what symbol there is on the flag or what symbol people have on their car and whatnot. So, I mean, that's how I feel about it.
Overcoming cancer while I sat in law school. I was 24 hours from death, and at that point, when the Lord spared my life, I knew that I had purpose and I was committed to that purpose. I moved on, and when I ran for state attorney, I did not run on my desire not to seek death penalty. I'd been a prosecutor, I'd been a public defender, a professor of law at FAMU's law school. I had seen a lot, and that wasn't what I stood on. What I stood on was data. What I stood on was research. What I stood on was evidence-based policies upon which we can win reform. When it comes to criminal justice reform, the truth is the only thing that matters. We're inundated with people feeling that they're afraid of it, feeling that this isn't the way to go, feeling that I feel this way, this is how it's always been. But the truth is, it's not working. More people die in prison before they're executed, and we have funded them living in prison until the day that they die. More people are killed, and we're not reducing it. The states that have death penalty actually have higher homicide rates than those that don't. So when I made the decision, I violated no laws. Let that not be mistaken. I understood the statute, I moved forward, and I used my prosecutorial discretion to say that I would not proceed with death penalty. And despite the attempted humiliation from the governor of my state, I feel no shame. I don't regret what I did. I stand because I believe in what I did. I believe that it is legal. I believe that it is proper. And I believe that the NAACP is the organization who knew it from the very beginning. I will not compromise what I believe is right according to the law. This is not a personal opinion. If you look at the data, if you look at the statistics, if you look at the truth of death penalty, it is not working, and I will not stand behind it. I will follow the law, and if the Supreme Court makes a ruling that is contrary, I will live with that. But I did not violate any laws on the front end. They're going to have to fix the law if they want me to go backwards. So I just want to say to the NAACP, I do want to thank you for the honor. I thank you for the work that this organization does and has always done long before I was even born. I want to thank my husband, who has been a rock while I continue to do this, my family support, and baby, you just stand up for a second. This is... And in closing, the one thing that I want to say is that I didn't come out here alone. I met Marilyn a while back, and we've been able to forge a very tight relationship, and it's those type of relationships and these type of organizations that will be the heart of change of this country. Thank you for the honor.